Good morning. I want to read again from Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And what an amazing thing to be able to do is to put our trust in the living God, to follow him as he leads and guides us, and to not be ashamed of the gospel of the Lord. You know, after that crusade in Omskirk where they got me to testify, it was an amazing thing. It wasn't just to testify, it wasn't just that crusade. God was leading me into a bunch of people to fellowship with on a regular basis. And I didn't know that I would walk with them the rest of my life, that some of them would even come out in latter years to work with me in America. It was it's a wonderful thing. Jordan knows that summertime, I fellowshipped at the church in Hesketh Bank. It was a wonderful fellowship. They met in the village hall every Sunday morning, and I would go there. It was amazing, and they would get me to share sometimes and testify of the goodness of God. There was a couple of hundred people in that small village hall, and it was just great fellowship. Pastor Whiteside led it real well, and often he'd have different preachers in, like David Willows, David Nellis, and Uncle Sam Nellis. It was just a tremendous time. It was tremendous for me because I was meeting a lot of men, godly men and preachers that really loved the Lord, and to become a great influence on my life. And I loved that. And, during that time after this church service, which would finish sometimes 2:00 in the afternoon, they'd go on a nearby beach in Southport and they would preach and prophesy and hand out tracts. And I just loved that kind of lifestyle. It was just amazing what God was doing. And the rest of that summer, they had 2 more crusades, 10 crusades in Liverpool. They had one in June, and then they had one in August. In the one in June, I was to meet Angie, who later on was to become my wife. I had no idea that I would fall in love with her. But in June, it was June and August, we had those two revival meetings. But in between that, thrown in was a meeting in Hollybush. There was a Christian camp there, summer camp in Hollybush, and I think that was the first week in August. And it was awesome. There's about 2,000 people there, met people from all over the country and from different countries, and the fellowship was awesome. By that time, I was getting pretty close to Angie at that time, and I'll share a little bit about that in a moment. But it was just an amazing summer, and it's wonderful how the Lord leads and guides you. Nobody else is going to always agree with you, but in your heart you know that you're led by God. And when you look back in life, you think, what a wonderful, incredible journey, as I am now. It's been an amazing journey. But I remember that time in June in Liverpool. I'd gone to that tent crusade, and remember I had no work at that time, and most of the time I would walk to that tent or whatever I was going. I walked. I didn't mind walking, but then look for a job all day long. But in June, I went to that tent crusade, and it was amazing. People were getting saved. Demons were being cast out. And in one of those meetings, one night, they needed somebody to watch the tent. They had different people to watch the tent. And I watched the tent that night, and it was pitch black. And I want to tell you something. I got scared to death. I'd never been scared. I've done some awful things in my life. I climbed onto 4-story buildings, up drain pipes to steal and to do awful things. But got myself in some dark positions. But here I am in a tent crusade. It's midnight, and I'm looking after the tent, and I'm sleeping in the caravan. And while I'm sitting in the caravan, I got an eerie feeling. I had to go outside and put out all the lights in the tent, so I did that. And on the way back, I fell over the tent, the ropes holding the tent to the ground. I fell over and I began to panic. And I got inside, and lo and behold, the light just turned off. And I watched it turned off, and there's nobody there. It scared me to death. I never slept all night. And the next morning, I decided, I'm not going back there. I'm just not going back. Well, I didn't go that night. It was in June. I didn't go that night, but I got a telephone call from a young lady, and she said, we missed you tonight. And she got the address off some friends of mine. She got my phone number of some friends, and they generally missed me, and they knew it was imperative that I would be in those meetings. So we arranged to meet, and we talked, and I told her why I didn't come. And I said I was scared to death. Scared to death of things I didn't see. But anyway, we talked a lot, and then during that time, the pastor invited me to go to that Hollybush crusade, which I did. And it was awesome, and Angie and I, by that time, we started to get pretty close. I still didn't have a job. After the camp, the summer camp at Hollybush with Jim Wilkinson and many others, I was back to Liverpool doing the same old things, looking for the job every single day. Then come August time, I was sitting in my house one day, and I was getting a bit wary of looking for jobs. And, I'm going to be honest with you, I missed all my friends in the world, the guys that used to knock around. I missed them. And it was a hard thing, and it was a really difficult time. But the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. I love the Lord with my heart. And there's no way I was going to go back there. But I did miss him. And one day I remember Angie came down. She had a mum's car and she borrowed it, and she came down one Saturday morning to visit me, and I said to her, I've got a friend named Alfie. Alfie was a former boxer, amateur champion of England twice, and then I think he went 13 fights as a professional, undefeated, and I'd met with Alfie years ago, and we become friends, and not many people liked him, but he was a rough guy. But anyway, Angie come down one Saturday morning. I said, would you want to come? I've got a friend I haven't seen since I've been saved. I'd like to go and witness to him. So she said, okay, I'll be willing. So we went, got in the car. It was a mum's car. We'd borrowed it. And we went up to Alfie's house in a housing estate. It was an apartment block. And we gets in there. And when we got inside, I said to her, look, if he invites us in, stand by the window and watch the car. It was a mother's car. She said, why would I want to do that? And I said, because someone will steal the wheels off it if you don't. So she said, okay. I don't know what she believed me in at the time. But when we got into Alfie's house, we were talking to him and introduced Angie to him, and I was talking to Alfie. His son came up, Jason, and Jason said, Dad, the cops are downstairs with that. Angie flew to the window, and he said, don't you tell him nothing, son. He said, I won't, Dad. Well, Alfie began to talk to us, and he said to Angie, he used to be a good fellow one time, but he's too big for us now. He's too good. He doesn't mess with us no more. And he said, me and him used to drink a lot together. We were friends together. He wouldn't drink with me now. And I said to Alfie, tell you what I'll do with you. I'll go and have a drink with you right now if you come to church with me in the morning. And Angie looked at me and he said, okay. So he gets in his car and he goes up to the Queen's Hotel, a bar right by Aintree Racecourse, me, Angie and him. We gets to the bar, parks outside. I walked in with him, and of course there was a lot of men that I knew had drank there, and a lot of times in my life, at least 3 or 4 times a week, but I'm in there now. And Alfie said, what do you want? I said, give me a lemonade. I got that lemonade, swished it down, and I said to him, I'll see you in the morning. The next morning, I went for him, and Angie come all the way down from where she lived, 30 odd miles away. She come down and to pick him up. We knocked on the door, and of course he didn't answer the door. He didn't come with us. That was the last time I'd seen Alfie. Since then, he's passed away. I don't know whether he's saved or not, but that was one of our experiences. In August of that year, my auntie come down to Liverpool while there was a tent crusade going on during every night. She came down, her name was Linda, and I'll never forget this time. She said to me, Pete, she was having real trouble. She said she'd come looking for my mother. And Linda said to me, Pete, I want you to pray for me. I said, why? She said, it's my husband, Barry. And she told me what. I said, don't worry about it. I said, God will. I said, trust God for him. God will. I said, you know what, Lynn? I said, I've got I said, doesn't matter. If you pray and believe God, he'll answer your prayer. And there's me telling her she's been saved for years. I said to her, you know what, Lynn? I said, since April, I've been looking for a job. I said, every day I've been looking for a job. never been able to find one. And sometimes I'm discouraged, but then when I get home, I think, God, you're so gracious. He does have a plan for my life. And I said, in fact, when I go to these companies, they ask me where have I been working recently, and I tell them I've been working for the Queen. They say, well, we'll call you. And it can be discouraging. I said, but this morning, I said, I got an interview, call for an interview, and I'm meeting a guy on tomorrow morning, which would be Saturday. I'm having an interview Saturday morning. I said, if he gives me the job or not, it doesn't matter. I know I'll thank God, and because I know he has a plan for my life. And she said, okay. Well, that night, I went to the Tent Crusade, and it was a short walk of just a couple of miles, but I walked, and I had what was left of my dole money, what they call money from the state for the week. I had £5.50. Went to the Tent Crusade. The guy named David Willows preached his heart out, and it was the last night. The Friday night was the last night of them meetings, and so at the end of the service, after David preached, they said, we want to take up an offering for the preacher. And well, I had £5.50, and as I left the tent, I put the 50 pence in. I had that £5 to last me all week. And I come outside, and then Angie followed me out, and she said, I'm feeling embarrassed. I said, why? She said, there's only 50 pence in that offering. We didn't know that everybody else, that the church was going to support him. I didn't understand that, but God was talking to me. So I put my hand in my pocket, and I didn't say anything to Angie. Walked back in the tent, and I put that £5 in the offering. And I walked home, and of course, Saturday morning I woke up. This really happened. Woke up Saturday morning, and the phone rang. It was that company. I thought it was a rinky-dink company in Liverpool. It was on Scotland Road. And they said, you've got an interview on Monday morning. I said, yes, sir, I have. And tomorrow morning, I said, yes, sir, I have. And he said, well, look, could you help me out here? We need help. Could you start Monday morning at 7 o'clock? I said, yes, sir. I didn't have to tell him nothing. I got the job, and I worked for them for 5 years. Not in Liverpool, but most of that was spent in Scotland, in Scotland. 3 months in Liverpool, but in Scotland. So God is a provider. As I put that £5 in, I didn't care. I just wanted to bless him. That's all I had. But it wasn't. And I often think, if you think you're down to your last monies, then you are. But when you walk with God, you're never down to your last. He always makes provision. The Lord is good. Amen. I want to finish this segment and say, bless you. Amen.